Hello, everybody. A very, very good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. It's so exciting to see you all, to be here with you again, and to share Reiki, to learn more about Reiki, to hear fascinating and inspiring stories, and get our Reiki mojo for the week so that we start bringing more of it into the world and indeed make the world a better place. I'm really, really thrilled that today we have a wonderful guest, Heather McCutcheon, who has the most amazing story about how to bring more Reiki into the world. So I will introduce her in a moment. At present, I think, as usual, let's just wait for a few more people to join us. Hello, everybody. And well, thank you to Venetia for offering to be co-host. I can't make you co-host because I don't know how it works. That's right, to understand that earlier, and it didn't work. So I'm afraid we'll have to leave that for next time. And at present, I have to deal with any unwanted marketing comments myself. So I'm going to try that. But apparently it's a good sign. It means that the robots placing them have spotted this as a successful show. And this is very good. And more people are joining us, which is great. Hello to Merseyside, to Essex, to London, to Rhode Island. Absolutely wonderful to see you all here. Just going up and down and see who is there. So next week we'll know how to make that a bit more professional. But whenever I do something technical, it's never professional. I'm just in awe that it works at all. And it does work, which is quite something. I'll tell you a little story in a moment, which is quite remarkable about how things work and how things sometimes don't work. And then there may be a higher reason behind. Maybe that's actually how I should start. Because a few weeks ago, when was it, about 3-4 weeks ago, we had this really embarrassing hiccup. I had invited Heather already to be on the show, and she very kindly accepted my invitation, and I sent her the link and everything, but I mixed up the times. I put the London time correctly, but I didn't translate it properly to American time. So she sent me an email saying she had been waiting for us to connect pre-show, and that was about 5 hours or so before the show was due, because it was the time I told her and not the proper time, which I found very embarrassing. And she was very apologetic, and she really didn't need to be, because it was entirely my fault. It was the hottest day ever in London, 40 degrees, whatever is that? Is that 104 Fahrenheit or something like that? And it was just melting. Interestingly, the internet seems to have melted as well, and it was already predicted that there would be some disruption, and there was. So when I came on the show by myself, I just saw something black. I saw no participants. There was no connection between the streaming platform that we are using and YouTube. Something just went wrong. And after about 10 minutes of trying, and Mum being on the phone 3 times saying, "Where are you? We are all waiting." Initially, I had to concede defeat and realized that and accepted that it wasn't meant to happen that evening. Isn't it interesting that I had made the mistake before with the time, so that Heather couldn't actually make it? Maybe that was Reiki stepping in, because the universe knew already that the internet wouldn't be capable of dealing with the temperatures. And now we're here, and there are many more people today, which is great. So that's the little story, how it started. Talking about stories, though, there are so many wonderful stories about how we individually use Reiki, how Reiki changes our lives, and how to bring Reiki into hospitals and in hospices and into more public health care, and um, uh, enhance how people can be helped when they have a problem. And yet, when we look at the state of the world, it is absolutely scary. So somehow, over the last 50 or so years of bringing more Reiki into the world is still a pretty difficult place. And this is the idea behind the Reiki Revolution. So many people talk about doing something for themselves, finally having some time for themselves, some me time, some time for self-development, for reflection, and Reiki helps greatly with this. But it simply, in my view, cannot stay there. Me time, self-development is almost a contradiction in terms, because everything that we do in order to develop, when we are on a spiritual path of development, will ultimately lead to realizing we are not who we think we are. On a deeper level, we are all connected. Whether we call it quantum physics, whether we call it uh, intuition, or whether we call it Reiki, where we can just feel the connection with other people. At some stage, we realize we are here together with many, many more at this time in this incarnation. So then the question is, why are we here? And I think the answer, once we learn Reiki, is relatively easy to share. To make it our mission to bring other people to Reiki. Not because we want to give them Reiki, but we want to help them. And we want to change the world and make the world a better place. And Reiki, the connection we can feel, is such a beautiful tool to do just that, to make the world a better place. Not only that we get maybe more ideas and a wonderful tool how to do it, but we get the constant connection ourselves. So we replenish our energy, our own energy, so that we can reach out and we can help more people. And when we meet people and come together and practice Reiki and really open up very, very powerful together, isn't that different to do it ourselves? For me, it's been this really interesting path. I always thought initially Reiki is very much for personal development, personal use, giving Reiki treatments one-on-one. But over time, I realized that when we come together and practice Reiki together, it just multiplies. It's the power of oneness, the power of connection, the power of truth, whatever we want to call it, the power of love, probably, which is all about connecting. And it gets so much stronger. So by sharing it with other people, we get more Reiki, and the whole world gets can get a really, really wonderful place once more. And when we look at the news, when we look anything from the climate change in London, it's still kind of bearable at the moment. I find it's pretty hot, and there are some days that are really, really hot. But of course, when we look at the crops, when we look at nature, when we look at the water levels and potential shortages, then the holiday feel that the sun gives us can turn into the opposite. And we realize that maybe the balance is not there anymore. And climate change is very real. When we switch on the news, we see that the war is very real, or wars all around the globe. And when we look inside, we see that the sadness, depression, anxiety, and anger is very real, because it's normal to feel this when there's so much pressure in the world. So all these things create this perfect storm of taking us further and further into A place where it almost seems that the world is beyond being capable of being saved. And I don't think this is actually the case. I am very, very certain that we can still make the world a better place. I think we are capable of change, and I think the world is capable of change. All we need is a critical mass of people standing together. And this is primarily why we have these Tuesdays, to get inspiring stories, to hear about it changes individual lives, to get ideas on how we can take part and reach more people. And this is why I'm so very, very excited today to have a wonderful guest. So I mentioned you already, and this time we managed to connect properly. And there we are. And now we've got everything. A very, very warm welcome to Heather from Chicago. Hi.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. That was beautiful what you said about sharing and teamwork. That was lovely.
Thank you so much. I really, really look forward to hearing a lot from you and to hearing stories and examples. But let me introduce you first. And I printed it out because I have no idea how to share a screen and put it all on there at once. So I still am in a bit old-fashioned these days. So Heather McCutcheon is a licensed massage therapist, a Reiki practitioner and instructor, and founder of the Reiki Brigade. And I really look forward to hearing more about that. With the help of several passionate volunteers, she conducts outreach events to support nonviolence throughout Chicago and raises awareness and availability of the benefits of Reiki. Since 2011, the Reiki Brigade has offered more than 5,000 10-minute demos to Chicago police officers, homeless veterans, incarcerated individuals, medical students and faculty, survivors of domestic violence, and attendees of trade shows and corporate wellness events. I think we can easily probably fill an evening just with going into all these kind of different directions and look at the different feedback. Heather offers a self-guided course to support those interested in conducting outreach of their own. She's also written a book, Connecting the Dots, from exec to energy practitioner, about her journey from Reiki skeptic to activist, and had articles featured in numerous trade publications. So thank you so much for being here today, and a very, very warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's just start. This was just a very, very kind of general introduction. Let's just start to get to know you a little bit better. Probably ideally by just talking about your journey, how you got to Reiki, and just share a bit about your life, what you are prepared to share.
Sure. I had a couple introduction points to Reiki. Many, many years ago, I had a friend who was into Reiki. I worked in advertising after college, a job which I initially loved, and then started to dread the higher up the ladder I moved. It became more and more about office politics and egos and budgets, and less about being a creative team that produced good work. And that was frustrating for me and made my job much less joyful. But I had a degree in English, and I didn't know what I was going to do if I was not in advertising, how I was going to make a living for myself. And I had a friend she's wonderful, still a lovely friend, dear friend of mine, who's super artsy and creative. And she got into Reiki and initially started mentioning it to me and put her hands on me and said, "See, don't you feel the heat?" And I kind of wrote it off as, she's pretty flaky. What's she into now? I don't know what that is. Whatever. I kind of poo-pooed the whole thing. Fast forward, I broke both my legs playing rugby, and I went to a sports rehab facility to recover from that. And when I walked in the place, there were people wearing t-shirts and shorts, and they were helping people feel better. And I got a really I missed my calling feeling watching that. Why am I in this corporate, job in advertising? I want to help people in this way. So I physical therapy was the first thought, but that's a 4-year degree, very expensive. Didn't have time or money for that. But I saw an ad for the Chicago School of Massage Therapy, which was a 16-month program. And I quit my job. I took out a second mortgage on my condo, and I marched into the office with my check for, whatever it was, $12,000, something like that, for this 16-month program. And you have to talk to the admissions. You get interviewed by admissions, and the guy said, "Where do you get your massages?" And I was like, "Well, I've never had a massage in my life. Already left my job, so you have to take me." And so he made me go get a massage, which was fine. So 16-month program. I learned cell physiology, anatomy, kinesiology, pathologies, technique, how to give a massage. I loved it. I loved all of it. And out of the 16 months, there was a 3-day section on Eastern philosophy and energy. And they started, I was very, excited about everything I was learning, came in very open-minded, had a great deal of respect for my teachers. And I came into the class, what's this going to be? And they did that exercise where you rub your hands together and then you pull them in like this and you feel the edge of an energy ball. And I didn't feel an energy ball. I didn't feel any buzzing. I didn't feel any tingling. And then they said, turn and mix your energy ball with your partner's energy ball and pull it and push it like taffy. And I was looking around the room going, holy crap, I quit my job and these people are crazy. And I'm this full disclosure, I kind of pouted throughout that class. This is a waste of time. This is not going to serve me. I'm going to be a massage therapist. I still had my very practical corporate mind. People are going to come in with tight muscles. I'm going to squish them and they're going to leave. And that's going to be my job. This whole energy thing is a little goofy for me. But when I became a massage therapist, I did start to have some experiences that were inexplicable by my Newtonian Western mind. I started to, first I started to have heart palpitations. My clients were primarily triathletes and marathon runners, so sports massage. And I started training for a race myself, a triathlon, just inspired by them. Trained for a very, very short triathlon myself. And I started to have episodes of heart arrhythmia where my heart was like pounding really weirdly, pounding out of my chest and I couldn't breathe. And it was scary. And this happened a couple times. Like the first time I was like, that was weird. And then the second, third time I was like, wow, I don't like that. And third or fourth time I was like, wow, I'm having a problem here. This is not good. I attributed it to my training. I was running for the first time in my life. And I just thought my body doesn't like this. There's something wrong with my heart. It's not going well. I talked to my family. I went to my doctor. She did all these tests. She said, you're fine. Everything's fine. And I was like, I've taken some anatomy classes and I know that the heart is a vital organ. Mine's not working correctly. There's a problem here. And she's like, you're in great health. There's nothing I can do for you. Go home. So then I got a massage I've gotten to the point in my training where my body was tight and I needed a sports massage. And I went to a very experienced sports massage therapist and he leaned his elbow into my glutes and he said, wow, you've got a lot of energy stored in here. And I was like, why do you say that? And he said, because my heart's pounding really erratically and I can't breathe. And the light bulb went off. Oh my gosh. And so I started to pay attention. And that's when it was happening to me, when I was working on people with tight muscles. And the muscles were releasing and letting go of this energy. And the people were up on a massage table and I had my feet on the ground. So it was traveling through me. And so I kind of put that together, but I still thought this is just a side effect of working with people. I'm going to have to be mindful of that so I don't take on any crap. It was much later that I realized that this was something that I could utilize to help other people. And it was in a time when my life kind of came apart and I was having a very hard time, and random people, 2 strangers to me really, in 2 separate incidences, put their hands on me. And I had that when you're having a really hard time and you just feel kind of that heavy, tight spot in your chest. And first it was a yoga instructor and then a woman who was teaching me meditation put their hands on me for moments. And I mean like a minute or 2. And all of a sudden I felt great. And I was like, what is going on? And my first thought was, what is happening? This is wonderful. And my second thought was, there are people all over the world going through a hard time. If this is something that they can do, is this something that I can do? And then is this something that everyone can do? And then why isn't everyone doing this for everyone? And then I just got very focused of learning what this was and how I could use it to help people. And I went with Reiki. Those two people did not call it Reiki. That word never came up. But as I started exploring energy work and talking to people about what was happening, Reiki did come up. And I just felt like it was the best branded with my background in advertising, the best known in terms of name recognition, and the best branded energy modality. So I went with that.
That's an interesting take on Reiki, but it's so true. And I think this is really something that we still don't use enough, that so many people have heard of that already. So we can really utilize that more.
It's really important. If you want people to understand what you're talking about, you got to get your brand recognition out there. So I started using Reiki for myself, which was tremendously helpful during this time in my life. And I would say I could honestly, it saved my life. And I incorporated it into my practice. And so I practice Reiki professionally, and I teach Reiki. I've taught Reiki to more than 400 people. But the Reiki Brigade was my effort to reach out to people who are skeptical, as I was, in a way that I thought that they could receive that information, because I resisted it. So how could I share this information with people in a way that they could absorb it and have that? So I, put together the Reiki Brigade, and we have really great marketing materials, and we have a good message, and I go give presentations with a PowerPoint that people, corporate America recognizes. Oh, you've got a PowerPoint. That's like serious. But also very key is that we give 10-minute demos. So it's not just me talking, it's people having a tangible experience.
So it's an event that you attend or that you create, and then you talk about it, you give out printed information about what Reiki is, and then people can experience what it is.
We do a combination of things. Sometimes the events are created. We don't have a location. We go on site to wherever people are. So sometimes there's a wellness event, and there's going to be a bunch of booths there with, all kinds of stuff. Somebody's got aromatherapy. There's a chiropractor, someone's teaching breathing. There's art therapy over there, whatever. And then we have our booth. And as people are milling around, they'll stop. And they want to sit in the chair, because it's an experience. It's not just take the flyer. It's sit down and feel what this feels like.
Yes.
And sometimes the events are created specifically for us. So we are called. The police department sometimes reaches out to us. We have Suicide Prevention Month. Chicago has the highest rate of suicide among police officers in the country. We also have some shootings of police officers. Unfortunately, we have those incidents as well. And so we're coming at it from all sides. We would like them to feel more comfortable in their jobs, more centered in their lives, less triggered, less in fight or flight, more in parasympathetic mode. And then, everybody involved, we would like to have be more calm. So they reach out to us, and we will go to the police station and have an event that's just us. So we'll be in the
let's just go a little bit deeper there, because I find this really fascinating. So it's police officers.
Yeah.
Actually, I had one police officer in 10 years, but it was a retired police officer. Yes, no, two actually, but they were both retired. But it's a very demanding, dynamic, physical, fearful environment, where you have to kind of step up and show force, and the law and order and all that kind of stuff. And then you go in there, and what's your angle? How do you?
Well, let's go back to what you were just talking about. Again, this is Chicago. You're in London. You're what do you call police officers there?
Cops.
Oh, do you? I thought there was another word.
Well, it's bobbies, policemen.
Yeah. Bobbies are. There's another word I was thinking of, but they don't carry guns where you are, right? They
Sorry, I didn't get that.
they don't carry guns in London.
Interestingly, not. No,
Right.
no, they're just kind of rubber sticks.
Right.
Yes.
And in other places in the world, police officers don't necessarily carry guns.
Mhm.
Our police officers all carry guns, and the population carries guns. So gun violence is a big deal. So
Yes.
every time our police officers get a call, there's a domestic, which is like a, could be a fight between a husband and wife, or domestic violence situation, a domestic. They go and they don't know what they're going to find. They don't know if they're going to walk in and someone's got a black eye because they got punched, or they're going to walk in and someone's holding a gun in their face. They don't know what they're going to get.
Yes.
And it could be at any time they get called to go, even a traffic stop, someone could pull a gun on them. So it goes both ways. Of course, we have people getting pulled over by police officers who are terrified that they're going to get shot. I mean, it's just really scary.
Mhm.
So to just try, and the Chicago Police Department is recognizing now that officer wellness is incredibly important, and they are, for the first time, reaching out to people, come help. They're having more of these wellness events. They are ratcheting up what's available in their compensation package in terms of what's covered for them to receive psychotherapy, et cetera. Because it used to be very stigmatizing. If they were involved in a shooting and they had PTSD from that, they would get put on desk duty or lose their jobs.
Yes.
So now they don't want to tell anyone they're having a problem, which only makes it worse. So yeah, they are finally now saying this is a very difficult job. We are human and we need help to cope with the stress of this job, which I'm thrilled to get to that point. There is, of course, a wide range of receptivity among the police officers. Some of the older officers have been around for a long time and they do it how they do it and they don't need any help. And some of the younger officers are like, I would like to learn how to meditate. I would like to do yoga. I would like to try that Reiki. So over time, it's become a little bit easier as some of the newer guys are aging up through the system. It's gotten a little bit more progressive and open-minded, and that's been great.
Mm-hmm. So when they are there then and they get Reiki, how do they react?
A wide variety. We generally are set up in a room that they have at the station. So there's 24 police stations in the city of Chicago, and we've made our way around to most of them. Have relationships with people at different stations who will invite us back recurring repeatedly. And we set up in this common area, and they're posted signs for us, and they make announcements. They have roll call, just like you see on TV. Here's what the issues are today. And don't forget, we've got people down in the common area offering Reiki today. So they can come in before their shift. They can come in after their shift. They can take a little break during their shift, which is part of the reason it's only 10 minutes, because if they're on duty, we can't have them for very long. But many of them will stop in out of curiosity. Oftentimes it's a very slow start. They laugh, they scoff at us, but then someone brave will try it. Often it's a woman from the front desk. Women are just generally more receptive. They'll go tell their friends, oh my gosh, that was really cool. You got to try it. And then next thing we know, there's more and more people. So we are often able to work on between 15 and 20 officers every time we go. And their responses range from, this is what I tell my students about what kind of reactions you'll get from people. I feel like it's a bell-shaped curve of there's people who will tell you whatever they think you want to hear. And there's people who will tell you what they think you don't want to hear. And in the middle are people being real honest and authentic about what their experience was. So there are some people that say, oh my gosh, that was so great. And you don't really know what happened. And there's some people that say, I didn't feel anything, where you felt like the earth moved and you're pretty sure they had some kind of experience, but they won't admit to it. But the vast majority of the responses are, and these are 10 minutes. So my goal is for them to have a tangible experience of their energy field and feel a little bit calmer, hopefully, such that they leave that interaction knowing that energy approaches are a good way to handle their health and well-being, and with the curiosity to explore that further. I'm not looking to cure them of anything in that moment. I just want them to have a tangible sensation. So they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. I would like to know more. That's what I would love to have happen. Yes. And that is where most everybody falls. wow, I felt buzzing and tingling down in my knee, though you had your hands up here. Wow, I
And so
felt
if people want to take it further, how do they do that then?
right. So we give them handouts, and I do have videos. I mentioned to you earlier, I have a YouTube channel. We have the Reiki Brigade webpage, which has our Reiki Brigade video on it. I have a video about here's what Reiki is. If you're about to receive Reiki for the first time, here's some information. And we also have a lot of videos of on the YouTube channel, which is Reiki Brigade on YouTube. Videos of feedback. I make recaps of these events, which I then use as marketing materials to get invitations to new events. One of my favorite videos that I have is we went to a conference. It was an international conference of veterinarians. So they are pet doctors, and specifically veterinarians that euthanize pets. So it's end of life care for pets. So these doctors, these veterinarians came in from all over the world, and there were about 300 of them, to a hotel out by O'Hare Airport to learn about how to up their game and serve their patients, the pets, and the patients' families. And I thought, what an excellent use of Reiki for not only the pets who are at end of life, but for the families who are going to be grieving losing this pet.
Yes.
And we learned while we were there that veterinarians actually commit suicide at a rate 3 times more than the general population, because euthanizing pets is a really rough job. I imagine that's a factor. I mean, the
Yes.
3 to 1 is a fact.
Yes. Wow.
Right. So they were so receptive. We worked on about a third of the people that were there that day. I had a bunch of volunteers. We were there for 8 hours, offered Reiki to...
How many volunteers do you have then there?
Well, currently I think about 18, but at any given time, people are busy with their family, they're on vacation, whatever. So, it's who's available and who wants to work on this population, who wants to drive out to O'Hare, who's available on this day. So I divided it into 3 shifts. So I was there all day, and they worked like 3-hour shifts. But we worked on close to 100 people, and I recorded their feedback. And so the director of this entire event thought it was fantastic. Several of them are just on video saying, that was really amazing. I need to incorporate this into my practice when I go back home to Ohio or Texas or Florida. And so we said, find a Reiki practitioner, you can either have them teach your staff or come in and work alongside you, but you could make this available. And they loved it. And I just was so excited about that. And there's a 3 or 4 minute video of that on the YouTube channel.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But it really, really shows that someone has to start it. And that's obviously that what you do, and what you also inspire other people to do, to really get started and just get out there. And this is why I was so excited to have you here today, because I think it's just something that we often don't really do. We kind of reluctantly tell our family and friends that we are doing Reiki and offer it if they have got a problem. But to have really the momentum and the confidence to go out there to a police station or vets and say, okay, yeah, you can have some Reiki, and you get it for free. So are all these events all for free?
Yes, we have not charged anyone anything so far. I've been doing this for 12 years, and it has become a pretty significant part-time job for me. So we are trying to shift into a model where I am at least earning some money for the administrative component of it. Training the volunteers, doing the recaps, lining up the events. So I just recently put out some information about, we'll do corporate events, corporate wellness events, which corporations are accustomed to paying for. And then that incoming money could pay me a small amount for just my admin time, not for the Reiki time. So
we should set up a trial, splitting the staff of an investment bank in half, and one getting Reiki and one not, and just see who makes more money that day.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I bet if there was a monetary impact for them, monetary outcome, they would snap to attention.
But of course, it does help us, as we all know, with our intuition and so on. So I'm sure it has a very, very positive influence on these things. I did put in the banner of your name again and the Reiki Brigade, so that people can get more information there. And what I found so interesting, you said you also work with homeless veterans?
Yes. We started with the VA hospitals, and they they put together service fairs here in the US called stand downs. That's like the nationwide term for these service fairs for homeless veterans, where they can come and get haircuts and get their eyes checked and get, vision care. They get a meal, they get clothes. If it's winter, they get boots and jackets, and they come in, they mill around, they get the stuff that they need, and they leave. And it took some doing, but we got an invitation to those events. There are several of them throughout Chicagoland. We've been working with Jesse Brown VA, which is kind of one of the closer ones to where I live. We've been working with them since 2011, and they do 2 of these events per year, minus 2 years for the pandemic. So we just went back again for the first time since 2020 and gave Reiki to a bunch of vets. It was so great to be back there. Hundreds of vets will come through, and we'll just be there with our banner and, volunteers and chairs. Have a seat. Do you want to try it? Here's some information. Many of them have PTSD from being in combat overseas. We've got, there are amputees that have phantom limb pain. I personally have found it to be incredibly effective for phantom limb pain, which is not something you would know unless you've had, the incredible opportunity to work with that population. But yeah, we're really grateful for that relationship and to have those invitations to those events. And they do happen nationwide. So anybody out there who wants to volunteer Reiki, Google VA stand down and see what you've got near you, and see if you can get an invitation to that and have a booth at that event.
Brilliant. That's amazing. The feedback, of course, is very diverse, but what would you say is like the most common feedback when people had Reiki for the first time? Wow.
Wow. It's probably the most common feedback. I feel so relaxed. I almost fell asleep. I felt moving. I felt pulling. I felt heat, buzzing, tingling. I feel so calm. I feel so peaceful. We actually just recently have also started using the Wong-Baker feedback scale, which is the faces. How are you feeling on this scale?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, it's a 2-sided half sheet before and after. So people come in and they're, I feel 7. I'm super stressed out today. And then after Reiki, now I feel 3. And then I can tabulate all the numbers. And for any given population, any given event, we moved from 6.5 down to 4.2 for this day. This is
wow. So you get the data to make it scientifically provable.
Well, yeah, I mean, up until now, and I'm kind of kicking myself after all this time, I've been reporting back to whoever my contact is that I orchestrate this event with, who's in charge of having us there. We got some great feedback, but basically if those individuals don't go tell that person, I had a really cool experience, we got great feedback, doesn't mean that much. But now, yeah, it's numerical. And usually the person organizing the event will have had the session and they will have responded on the form. So when I give them these numbers, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And it's just, and then I say, do you have any words about how you felt during your experience or how you feel now? And we just jot those down quickly. So now I'm able to give them, the bar moved from here to here. And here's some feedback. I just picked the juiciest comments. It was wonderful. I felt weightless. I almost fell asleep. I felt pain leaving my body. Just a couple of those. And then I say, here is what we did for your team today. Here's what Reiki, did for them. And it's just much better feedback than, people made nice comments.
Amazing. How do you explain Reiki when you approach people then for the first time? So when you've got a few minutes, I suppose you don't have a very, very long time to go into all the details. So what are your kind of key things that you want to bring across when you explain to people who probably haven't heard of Reiki at all before what it is?
That's a great question. Initially, we were just telling everybody. Every one person who sat down, whoever was standing there to give them Reiki would give them a spiel. And I got to tell you, after doing that for 10 years, I was like, there's got to be a more time efficient way to do this. Yeah. And I finally made a video. And if there's electricity, if there's opportunity, if logistics work out for it, I will bring my laptop and I will put the video on loop. And it's like 3 minutes long. And it says, so you're about to get Reiki. Here's some info about Reiki. And there's animation and all the things. And then they sit in the seat and we say, do you have any questions? And most commonly they say, no, bring it on. And that's wonderful because it's such a time saver for us. Mm-hmm. But I found when we go to the police stations, they will stand and chat with each other over that video for 45 minutes and come in to get Reiki and say, tell me what it is. because they don't have time.
And what do you tell them
So what
very,
I
very
say
quickly
is,
in 1 minute?
well, what I say is, we're made entirely of energy. That's quantum physics. It's not open for debate. We store trauma in our bodies energetically, and that can cause problems for us physically in terms of aches, pains, and illness. Emotionally, in terms of grief, anger, and depression, hanging around longer than is helpful. Psychologically, stress is just a blanket term, as well as interfering with our connection to spirit. So what we're offering with Reiki is some high vibrational energy to help clear, balance, and fortify your energy field. You might think of it as rinsing. Most commonly, people will feel very relaxed afterwards. We'll see what it can do for you. Then we have instructions about, take a couple deep breaths. We encourage them to close their eyes. Always ask for permission to touch them. And then we do the Reiki. And how'd it go? Do you have any questions? Here's a handout. On your way.
Brilliant. I love that. It's a really, really good way to get to people, because everybody will immediately come up with things that they know they store in their bodies, traumatic events and so on. So that is very, very clear, and to show that it's kind of it's there, it's a blockage, and it can be flushed out, or at least it can be eased. Yeah. And then we have more energy and we feel better. And whether we call it stress reduction and relaxation or a spiritual awakening is then up to the individual.
Yeah. And when I talk to the vets with PTSD, when I say we store trauma energetically in our bodies, and these guys can't sleep at night and they have repetitive thoughts that are traumatic for them, they nod enthusiastically. I am storing trauma energetically in my body. That very much resonates with them. Yes. I have a new volunteer, and I love what she says too. She says, "This is going to be like meditation I'm going to help you with my hands." And that's all she says. Yes. And I was like, oh, it's brilliant. At this point, we all know what meditation is, and you're going to hold up your hands and help me do that. So there's a lot of different ways to describe it.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. We are slowly kind of coming to the end of that conversation already, but I could just go on and on and on. Just one more thing. You did mention and that it has also an effect when you talk with people about our connection to spirit. So you do go more into the spiritual aspects of what that means?
Depending on the population, I sometimes say that part and I sometimes don't. What I want to be conscientious of is not turning anybody off right away. So for example, we volunteer at a medical school. We really want future doctors to be aware of this. And I do emphasize that we're not looking at this with the term alternative medicine, but rather integrative and complementary. So I do kind of tone down my language a little bit when I'm talking to a very scientifically based group. And I also bring handouts that have scientific studies on them. So this is, peer-reviewed publications where studies, clinical trials about Reiki have been published. But I might leave that part out. But yeah, I haven't really had too many people ask me about that. For the most part, I just leave that kind of on the light side. And then afterwards, if people sometimes people have had spiritual experiences, and then they will ask questions, and then I'm more willing to provide information once they've had the experience.
No, I love that approach, rather than just throwing it all at them and overwhelm them, to basically just allow Reiki to be the spiritual experience, which of course it will inevitably turn into.
Yeah, I feel like, just the fact that laying on of hands is a real thing for me was like, that's a spiritual thing in itself.
Yes.
But yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so very, very much for sharing on that. I'm sure that a lot of the people on the show today, and especially all the replays, most of the views are coming later. So whenever you are watch this, please take that as a wake-up call, as a call to action. Honestly, if our healing hands are not in itself a call to action, what other call are we supposed to get? Hands are our natural tool to reach out, and now to have the energy and to use them very, very effectively is just something that we just can't keep it for ourselves.
Yeah, I've heard different teachers and different leaders in the Reiki community say, this is just for self-care. You're not going to rush out and change the world with your Reiki, but I did not embrace it until I had that experience myself. My friend told me about it and I was like, no, I'm not buying it. It wasn't until my life took a downturn and people put their hands on me and I had this tremendous experience of it that I started exploring. And it's not that again, I'm not out there to try and heal everyone. Sometimes incredible things happen, but I don't think of myself as a healer. I think of myself more like Johnny Appleseed with the information. Because how are you going to, if you don't even know it's there? Like you're not even aware of it. People can't do self-healing with Reiki if they've never heard of Reiki and don't know that it's an option. So really you just want to give that introduction and let them start their own path with it, whatever that's going to be.
Wonderful. Thank you so very, very much for sharing that and for being here. And let's just put that in there, onesmallreikibrigade.org. So if anybody watching this has any questions, then you can get in touch with Heather. And of course, that is the whole idea behind the Reiki Revolution, to bring more out, to get inspiration and to find this inner calling and our individual place. So maybe you don't have a veteran home next to you. Maybe you have an old people's home. Maybe you have a school using Reiki for children. And it's something that can be experienced by children. It's something that can be learned by children. Maybe that's the calling. Maybe there is a hospital or there is a hospice, or you simply find that work really needs to change. Wherever you work, whether it's a small business, whether it's a big corporation, and somehow the atmosphere really could benefit from more love and connection. And then we start bringing Reiki in there as well. There are just so many ways. So thank you again. Thank you, Heather, for the inspiration. And please stay there in the background and take part in the Reiki share that we are now starting together. Because that is another aspect, of course, of the Tuesdays, that we get together and we connect and we give each other Reiki. And by doing so, we create this web, we create this huge field of Reiki that automatically touches more and more people and gives us more momentum and help and energy for the week. So let's just move over there. Thank you once again so much, Heather. And everybody who is here, and very, very importantly, everybody who is going to watch the replays later, this is the phenomenal feedback that we're getting all the time. You still feel it. You're still part of that. Reiki is beyond time and space, something that we may not say in this 1-minute introduction to somebody talking about Reiki, but it's simply the experience then that we will have. And of course, it changes our take on life, on the universe, and on our place in the universe as these wonderfully privileged people who have already found this connection, this technique, this modality, and can now share it. So I would like to invite everybody now and whenever you are watching this replay to now just bring your hands together and connect to Reiki, or just use any technique that you usually do. And just close your eyes and for a moment just feel your connection. This, of course, is always the starting point, to know we are connected to Reiki. And now we can freely share it with everybody else because we're not using our own energy. Our energy is replenished at the same time. And then just open your hands and set your intention to connect with everybody on this Reiki share today and in the future. If you've learned the connection symbol, distance symbol, whatever you call it, then you can just draw the symbol and utilize that to connect with everybody. And just feel the connection with everyone for a moment. And then become aware and accept that you are receiving Reiki from everybody at the same time. It's just this web of connection, energy, and love that we are sharing. And if you are suffering from a particular problem today, whether it's a physical problem or an emotional problem, just ask Reiki to help with this. And the beauty of what we are doing is we can just let go. It's not us doing it, we are receiving the energy. So we simply need to just allow it, letting go of our involvement and just let Reiki do the work. And then just take a moment to bring your hands back together and thank Reiki and come back into the here and now. And interestingly, something just prompted me to open my eyes during the Reiki share, and I could still feel the wonderful connection. But I wondered whether there was actually a question, and there were many lovely comments, but there actually is one question that I feel is so important that I'm going to put Heather back on, if that's okay. So there we go again. Hi, Heather. I'm just going to put this in. The question is, from experience, I know some communities' legalities don't allow for touching the general populace at events. Do you provide Reiki hands-on or hands-off, or have you had any issues with that?
We always ask. We say we can do this with very light touch or hovering in your energy field. Do I have permission to touch you? So we have worked with populations, including young women who have been victims of sex trafficking, and touch could be an issue. Some of our volunteers are men. We just want to make sure we have permission. Of all the thousands of folks that we've offered Reiki to, I've only ever had one person say, no, don't touch me. And it was a police officer in practically full riot gear. I don't like when people touch me. Don't touch me. Absolutely fine. But pretty important to say, do I have permission to touch you? And that's like giving them authority. And then there's more comfort level. I'm in charge here. So yeah, but states have a no touching rule, then, don't do that. We don't have that here.
Yes, thank you very much. That's really important. So in the United States, in some states, it's not allowed to touch people unless you are a medical doctor, a massage therapist, or so on, and not as a Reiki practitioner. So then you must keep your hands slightly away. Of course, it's just as effective. But I just really wanted to clarify and thought that was really important. So thank you once more. Thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for sharing with everybody, and thank you all for being here, and again for creating such a beautiful community. So I look forward to seeing you all next week, and until then, have a wonderful evening, day, wherever you are in the world. And I just need to find the button that I need to press now. So somewhere there it is. So thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of the week. And well, I'm sure you will anyway, but just share Reiki as much as you can. My experience is always the more we share it, the more we receive, the happier we become.